What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of SSPN Postgame and another L for the Spurs, Ethan. Out of all the games that we've been doing recently, let's see, what happened on the Friday game? I'm forgetting what happened in the Wizards game. Was that one a little bit closer? Yeah,
It
that
was
was.
competitive, but we still gave it up.
It was like this one.
Yeah, this one felt worse
Okay. Would
for
you
me
say it felt
personally.
worse? Would you say it felt worse because of like we were competing better than we were in that game and then let it go away, or why was it worse for you?
Well, the Wizards game was something that I was extremely used to. We were playing a team that was clearly better than us, despite not having Bradley Beal and Kyle Kuzma. They still had Kristaps Porzingis and sort of a veteran squad and some
Right.
some solid young players. So it was like going into it, it was like, okay, we're going to lose this game, whatever. But we were competitive in the first half, and then what happens? Oh, the Spurs let it go in the third and the fourth quarter. It's like, okay, well, that's been the recipe the entire year. So I wasn't really disappointed necessarily. This one, a little more disappointing because the Jazz traded away all their really good players, and now the players that they still have that are really solid offensive players weren't playing. They had the fire lineup of whatever his name is, Agbaji,
Okay.
Walker Kessler, Taylor Horton Tucker, Juan Toscano Anderson, and Fontecchio, or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Not a lot of big names. So they're a pretty young team led by, I guess, Taylor Horton Tucker. So going into it, you think, okay, we're going to be able to pull this one out. And it was competitive, but I know we didn't have Keldon, we didn't have Devin, we didn't have Jeremy, but you still would have liked to have seen the Spurs kind of pull this one out in the end because, in my eyes, talent wise, I mean, we're still pretty equal. I mean, we had Malachi, we had Trey, we had Zach, we still had Mamu. I don't know. Just to let Taylor Horton Tucker go for 41 on us, it wasn't, and it never felt like we were really in rhythm the entire night. It really took like a heroic effort from our boy Devonte Graham to kind of keep us in the game. It felt like, and I know Malachi had a pretty decent game, but Devonte's spark plug off the bench is what kind of kept us afloat
No, those
for a
those
long
two
time.
threes in the corner back to back. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, like he was really keeping us in the game, keeping the energy high. It felt, I don't know, it felt low energy. Didn't feel like we deserved the win against a team that was pretty subpar. But what did you think?
I thought that um well, I get, first of all, I get a lot of what you're saying. I guess I have a little bit of a nicer perspective, you could say. Like if
Mhm.
you're like the devil on the shoulder right now, I guess I'll be the angel right now,
Let's do
Ethan.
it. Let's do it. Good guy, bad. Good
but
cop,
but
bad
what I
cop.
will say though is your main overall point. Like this is one where like we're playing a team that was playing guys like we usually play. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and so that was why it was super competitive for the majority of the game. It was back and forth scoring, and then we had a bunch of turnovers, and they went on a 15-4 run to start the first 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, and that was where they took over. Obviously, Taylor Horton Tucker went crazy the entire game, and you don't want to allow that to happen. I guess you could say Trey should have a better initiative there. I guess the other thing that I would say is when it comes to just this specific game, which is obviously very insignificant. I think they could have put Romeo on him a little bit more, and I think that would have slowed him down. I don't think that would have prevented him from getting at least 30 necessarily, but maybe
Yeah.
it would be like 32 instead of 41. Because there was a possession that I only remembered really one possession where we guarded him, which makes sense because Taylor Horton Tucker was playing point guard for them, so it's going to be Trey or Blake. And just in all honesty, like, even though Trey is a good defender, Taylor Horton Tucker can, as we can see, he can get buckets. Like, but he could do, like, we saw a little bit of flashes of that on the Lakers. But here's the main point, Ethan, is that he's 6'4", 220. Like, that's just kind of a mismatch for Blake and Trey all night. You see what I'm saying
Hmm.
there? So I feel like there were favorable matchups for him. And that wasn't like, at some point, like, it's not Trey being a bad defender. It's just like Taylor Horton Tucker's, kind of Keldoning him. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like it's like the inverse of whenever we were, well, no, it's the same thing. It's just, they just have a big point guard. I was about to say it's
Yeah.
the inverse of when Keldon was at the 4 and he was too small, but You get what I'm saying there. So I mean,
Yeah.
still, there's some stops he should not have got 40. That I'm not trying to make that as an excuse, but that is kind of something I noticed throughout the game. And even despite him scoring, we were still trading buckets and we're score for them until, I mean, we put in Barlow. It kind of coincided when
Yeah.
we put in Barlow for the fourth quarter, but he didn't even really play bad tonight. I'm not even just saying that because I'm president of the Barlow fan club. Like he didn't, play great tonight either. But like I don't think he was despite so many times we've seen, like, I've used the moniker like Barlow and the gang when we throw in like,
Hmm.
Champagny, him, and Mamukelishvili, whoever it may be, like we've been seeing over these past 3 games. But tonight, I don't think it was necessarily that, because like Trey was still out there. I want to say Malachi was still out there with him, and it wasn't like he was, it wasn't like, okay, we put in Dom and that was the reason we lost. It was like the whole team collectively with that lineup. Not only was he getting, bullied a little bit by Udoka Abuzuki, who caught however many lobs tonight, but just,
Yeah.
I guess my counter argument would be that it's not just we were low energy. There were a lot of I'm just trying to think of some other stuff that you were saying, but the point is that my counter argument would be is we were scoring with them, and then it was the same old story to start the fourth quarter, where they go on a 15-4 run because we go cold and we also play sloppy, which is kind of just the same
Yeah.
story of the whole season. You know what I mean? Even when we have Devin and Keldon in there. So yes, this was a level playing field, and it's one that we should have gotten. I agree with you there, but there were also some similar themes,
For
that have
sure.
been consistent throughout the year.
For sure. I get what you're saying. And I would have liked Zach to have had more touches. I know he shot the ball 14 times, but he really didn't get the ball in the
He should have.
post that much. And I know Walker Kessler's a really good shot blocker, but he had some good switches in his favor a lot of times, and we just couldn't get the ball into him. Mamu had a great pass to
Zach
him.
matched up good with Walker Kessler tonight
I
too. He
thought so
blocked him a
too.
couple
Yeah.
times.
I wasn't necessarily like too worried about Walker, but he still had favorable matchups aside from that one. So I would have
Right.
liked to have seen him get more buckets. And I guess my biggest disappointment is I was hoping that one of the young guys, and this isn't necessarily all on them because I mean it's a system that we run. It's not necessarily designed for one guy to go off. But I would have liked Malachi or Blake or Mamu even or Trey to just kind of take it upon
Trey.
themselves to be to go out and will themselves to a win, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. And it
go
never
go
felt
get
like
the win.
anybody, yeah, do basically what Taylor Horton Tucker did for the Utah
Exactly.
Jazz, but for the Spurs. And I didn't feel that any of them were necessarily jumping at that
Right.
opportunity. But that's not all on them necessarily.
No, that's a great point. I completely, with everything I just said, I still agree with you here, because if one of our guys does that and has a Taylor Horton Tucker like game, then I mean, there isn't that giant of a gap in this game. I mean, really,
For sure.
despite the fourth quarter, going the way it did, it still was only, the Jazz only won the fourth quarter by a 6-point margin. So I definitely, would have liked to see a little bit more of that. Malachi did have a good game. But I think it also, like, I'm looking at this, and this is kind of the same story we talked about last time when it comes to the bottom minutes to people off the bench. Like, almost everybody
Yeah,
except for
we did.
Dom had at least 18 plus. So that's the other thing. Like, maybe we give 40 minutes to Trey Jones, and that makes a difference. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I maybe, and when I say it makes a difference, I'm not even saying that the Spurs win, but it doesn't turn into that kind of blowout, like where in the middle of the fourth quarter it's like, well, and there you go, the game's over again. You know what I'm saying? It might have been competitive until the very end.
Yeah. And it also hurts that Chris Dunn had 17. Like
Yeah,
Chris Dunn, like we're really gonna let Chris Dunn get 17. No disrespect, but like he's a defender
but
and a
no,
playmaker.
he was picked up in the G League midseason.
Yeah,
You're not being disrespectful.
yeah, it's just that hurts. But defense has been a constant struggle all year, and it just continues tonight. Jude, like I don't know what the fix is. I don't know if it's because we don't have like an elite shot blocker necessarily. We don't have like Charles Bassey might correct a lot of these problems. Maybe it's just chemistry.
Right.
That's also a huge problem. but something's not working right now, and I hope we can get it fixed moving
Yeah.
forward because I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with just the nature of this season. I
Yes.
know that's a convenient
No,
excuse,
it's a
but
legitimate
like
one.
we've just been historically bad on defense. And then on top of that, like who's our best defensive player? It's probably Sohan,
Devin.
right?
So yeah, Sohan or Devin. Yeah, Sohan
Yeah.
definitely
So
actually.
Sohan Devin, who's out? Those are two guys who are out tonight. Like
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
I mean, this is one
The
where when you
anchors.
think about I mean, this shows the tank because if we throw one of those three in tonight, I mean, I think
Yeah,
Sohan's really got some stuff going on. Keldon or Devin could definitely play. Like they both probably could have played. I'm just
for sure.
hoping they don't do this next Thursday, man. They're hyping up the Austin stuff. Do not give me Julian Champagny in the starting lineup. That's no offense to him. He had a bad game tonight too, and he's
Hmm.
just kind of been off and on, I feel like. And I'm not saying that as like I don't think that this is a indictment on
Not
Champagne's
at
future
all.
in San Antonio or what he'll be. I think this just showed me that he's kind of similar to Danny Green. Like sometimes it's like he's either off or he's gonna get you 15 points and like make three threes. You know what I'm saying?
I think
That's what we've seen from him so far.
he's the perfect example of a guy that when he's next to Devin, Kelton, Jeremy, Zach, like when everyone's playing, like sure he's gonna knock down some wide open threes. Like he's like Matt Bonner, but if like it was
He's gonna
just Matt
score.
Bonner out there, yeah, he's gonna get wide open shots and he's gonna knock them down. But if he's like God forbid, like playing with this lineup where nobody can really
Yeah.
draw two, he's like, dear God, like 1 for 6. He doesn't know where he's supposed to
Poor
be,
guy.
like just shuts down. But he's also still new, so like maybe he has some more upside that we're not giving him credit for. But
Well, no,
he's
I've liked
definitely,
what I've seen from him. I just
yeah, me
noticed. I
too.
mean, he had an
But his
off
best
game.
games were when everyone else was playing, like when he had Devin and Keldon and
Exactly.
Jeremy, and now he doesn't. And so we're just like, okay, so this is who he is. Like now we know.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Yeah. Oh, Julian Champagny.
I still like him.
Starter, baby.
Starter. Yes, yes,
25.
starter. And you know what? Credit to Mamu. I thought Mamu had a great game,
Uh
like a
huh.
phenomenal game. 17, 8, and 5. Had some really crazy dimes. Um, yeah, hand over fist. Yeah, you read our mind. Mamu continues, Jude, to look more and more to me like our perfect Boris Diaw like
Mm-hmm.
replacement. Like he fits that
Uh
role
huh.
so perfectly. And if we can draft a Victor Wembanyama to kind of be that Tim Duncan kind of, them next to one another. I'm not saying that Mamu's going to be the starting power forward. Of course, that's Jeremy Sohan. But like he's a perfect complementary piece that makes everybody around him better, and he doesn't really make mistakes.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the hop step, little drop off that he had to Zach on the dunk,
Yes,
was
yes.
awesome. I love his creativity, like while he's driving to the rim, and that's playmaking or being creative with an up and under. We saw that tonight. He's always, his basketball IQ is definitely it's very high because there's so many times where he will pump fake people or he'll pass up shots, and it's because he finds a pass that like I didn't even see, and I'm watching the tape. Like I'm literally watching the tape live,
Mhm.
and he will just come up with something that even I didn't think was possible in that moment, and it's just because of his creativity, and the way that he sees the floor. And so when you combine that with someone who's 6'10", 240, it's very very appealing, and I'm glad tonight that we got to see him more at the four. That is definitely more
Yes.
his natural position, and we
Yes.
mentioned this on some other ones, but for those of you who don't know, he plays the three for the Georgian national team. So I mean, the Boris comparisons are very very like they definitely, like, for someone who's a Spurs fan like us who kind of grew up on those 2014, like that was our era for the championship teams. Obviously 2007, 2003, we're a little littler then. um the similarities are obvious.
Mhm. Mhm. For sure. And he's only going to get better because I forget that he's still 23. So he'll
Yeah.
get more consistent with his jump shot. He's already got a beautiful stroke. So
Hmm.
consistent in that area, maybe build up his body some more, get a better handle, and he's a
Hmm.
legitimate role player that we just stole. So shout out to the Spurs front office on seeing that
Man.
diamond in the
Yeah.
rough.
Him and Bassie.
Yeah, and Bassie. I forget that he's not playing because he would really solve a lot of our problems.
Yeah.
Um, it's a shame that he got hurt the way that he did.
Yeah. But shout out to the Spurs front office, man. We're
Yeah, for real.
pickpocketing the Sixers and the Bucks. Those aren't too bad teams to pickpocket from right now.
I just remembered. We played
What's
Luka
up?
Samanic. We
Yeah,
played
no, I
Luka.
know. Well, don't worry, I didn't forget. We
You're
had
coming
to.
to it? Okay.
We're gonna get there. But
Okay,
you're
cool,
already
cool, cool.
here. The Spurs, if you guys don't know, you didn't catch the game tonight. Lucas Samanic made his triumphant return to the NBA against none other than us. Tonight,
Yes.
he signed a 10-day contract with the Jazz. I didn't even think about it. I was just like, oh yeah, he's doing great for the Maine Celtics. I've been seeing it pop up on my timeline. Oh well, duh, he got signed by the Jazz. Will Hardy's the head coach. I didn't connect the dots until I saw him on the court tonight. I was like, well, that's why freaking
Mhm.
Samanich got signed by the Jazz. But poor guy. I mean, he didn't look bad. You can see the talent
No.
that he has,
Yeah.
but the fouls and the missed shots. This was just game one. Hopefully, he can play a little bit better. And I thought an interesting tidbit. I was texting with you about this. This is not something that I had heard prior to today's broadcast, but he said, and one of the most infamous SSPN moments of all time, Ethan, is when he didn't go back for the preseason for the ball in preseason against the Magic a couple years back, and he got cut the next day.
Yeah.
And we were
Yep.
talking about it on the post game, and then I think it might have been a back to back, or there was a game pretty soon after. And that was
Mhm.
just such a funny moment to come back on here and talk about. We couldn't believe that. I was like, it seemed weird. They took him out. He was gone. Anyways, then of course he ends up cut the next day.
Mhm.
I don't even know where I was going with that. I know we're talking about Lucas Samanich, but
Yeah, yeah, it's a
well,
funny
no,
story.
it's wild. He's playing the Spurs in his first game
Yes, in
back.
his first
That's what I
game
was
back.
getting into.
And you mentioned the foul trouble. I think he had 3 in the first quarter, and then he picked up his 4th
Hmm.
pretty quick in, the 3rd. Early in the 3rd is when he got his 4th foul. Um, so obviously the physicality, kind of figuring out where he's supposed to be is gonna be a struggle, making shots, but 9 points, 9 boards, 4 assists. I thought he played pretty well, to be honest with you. I mean, he showed the skill set that we were hoping he could give to the Spurs, alongside with his new build, which was kind of funny to see. I knew he had gotten stronger, but he looks like really built, big shoulders. Like he
He
came
looks
to us as
thicker. Yeah.
a real thin, rail thin dude. Um, I hope the best for him, though. I mean, I wanted to beat him tonight. Obviously, I wanted to dunk on him because we're Spurs fans and we wasted a 19th overall pick on him. But uh, we used to argue for him to start. Remember that
Hmm.
season he got
Yeah.
cut. We were both talking about he's
Going into
the
the year.
starting four. Yeah, the starting four next to Keldon at the 3 and Jakob. He could, he can stretch the floor. Let this be his one opportunity to prove himself. And then that preseason, he obviously got cut. So shout out to him. Hopefully, he's figured all of his problems out, and this is his just next step in his NBA journey. But yeah, I still want to beat him every time we see him.
Same
Every time we
here.
see him, I want Keldon to
What
dunk on him.
what I think I forgot to mention before I talked about of course the infamous magic moment that we lived through
Yeah,
together
the magic moment,
was
nice.
the magic moment. I'm crying. No, it was that they were talking about on the broadcast how he said getting cut by the Spurs was the best thing that ever happened to him, and
Yeah,
that was just I hadn't heard that yet, and I just was like, interesting.
that's
That's
good.
good to hear. So that's why I was kind of sad that he had foul trouble and then went 2 for 8 tonight. But you can see there's just gonna be a transition even versus this team. There's gonna be a
Yeah.
transition from the G League to the NBA. So we'll see what he does in these next 9 days now that he's got left on this 10-day contract. And I don't know. I mean, maybe if he really said that, if he ends up getting his crap together, maybe one day he comes back. I mean, I know that sounds crazy right now. Obviously, that's
Yeah.
super far in the future. But hearing that comment, it's kind of funny because, in Spurs fandom, he's kind of somebody we just kind of troll and laugh about. But it's like,
Hmm.
maybe if he does end up panning out, he might come back if he said something like that.
I'm not against it, to be
That would
honest
just
with you.
be Brian Wright is always playing 4D chess.
Well, didn't you know,
Will is gonna fix him, and then he's gonna and then Will and him are gonna come back when Pop retires.
excellent. I'm down for that for sure. 2 for 1. Did you know that
Oh
Luca?
my
The
gosh.
reason we drafted him was actually because of Timmy.
Hmm.
Timmy was
He loved
just
him,
super high on Luka Samanic. It was just hilarious to
and he
me.
went and scouted him too.
Hmm.
I know, dude. And
Hysterical.
I know we were talking about it before, and or we were texting before, and you were like, I didn't know about him before the draft, but like that year, and I still didn't even like, I wasn't as into the draft like as I am now. But like, I still like out of the handful of players I knew, like the two or three players, I was like, we should pick this guy. Like he was in there, and it was just because he was a 6'10" power forward
Yeah,
that could
we
shoot
needed a
and put
power
the ball
forward.
on the floor. Right. And he was in the first round projections. And I remember even he was like, this is who I wanted to get picked by. Like he said that he was like, I was hoping I'd fall here. It just seemed so perfect. And then the Timmy stuff and then all the G League highlights, dude. I remember me and my friends thought he was going to be the next Giannis. Like it was so bad, dude.
I was hoping for it.
Like when I say Giannis, it's kind of similar to the stuff that we've talked about before, like with Sohan's like or his development. Like we thought he was going to have a Samanich, we thought Samanich was going to have a Giannis type development, as in like it takes a while for him to become what he's going to be. But yeah, definitely was wrong there.
Well, you never know. He's still got time, I guess. He should be on an NBA team though. Like he can't just continue getting 40 points a game in the G League. Like
yeah,
if he can't,
there's a reason he got a 10-day contract. I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if, especially with Will's connection, that we'll see with all the moves that shake out. But especially with how Markkanen has played for them, he's got a similar build and a similar play style.
Yeah.
He might end up being their third string power forward next year. But we will have to see, Ethan. We'll have to see.
Good luck to him.
Any final thoughts on this one?
A tough one, but at the end of the day, NL just adds to our lottery odds. So let's continue racking them up, painstakingly continue to lose, and we will continue to be here to walk you fans through the same misery that we are experiencing every day of our lives. If we
and I'm gonna go see it live in person in Austin next Thursday.
Where I guarantee, or I don't care, I'm hopeful that everyone will play for you, Jude, because they have hyped that up so much. They have to play.
Dude, it's a back-to-back in Austin. Like this was the last game in San Antonio, right? Just play like okay, so it's a back-to-back. So that means that not all of them are going to play both games. But I got the first night, which I feel like that's good odds.
That's the one I go to for sure.
Yes, especially with Dame being shut down for the season. But Anthony Simons may give me 40.
Drew, baby. Drew's gonna give you the hook shots.
I'm gonna come with my Drew Eubanks poster that is signed, my Drew Eubanks Spurs poster, and then I'm gonna try to get his attention, and then I'm gonna act like I just realized he's not on the Spurs, and then I'm be like, oh, I don't want your autograph.
No, you gotta tell him. You gotta tell him to come on the podcast, man. You gotta be as nice as you can. You should FaceTime me.
Like, Drew. Oh wait, you're not on the Spurs. Never mind.
No, don't do that to my guy.
That would be so mean.
You gotta FaceTime me and let me see him. Let me talk to him.
I definitely will. If I can talk to Drew, I'll be like, "Yo, dude, loved you."
Is our mutual friend that's also that worked with him? Is he going to the game?
He's not.
Okay, I was gonna say then that's your key. That's your ticket in.
That would have been the real hookup. That's my ticket to Trey and Zach Collins too.
It's all
little to the people
2-on-2 game. Trey and Zach versus Ethan and Jude.
Oh yeah.
You got Zach. I'll say Trey.
Well, I got a little bit of a final note that's off topic today, Ethan. But if y'all follow us on Twitter at SSPN on YT, you can watch the show there if you want. I retweeted a bunch of Evan Townsend's threads today on a bunch of different draft prospects. He works for Project Spurs and mainly does like NBA draft stuff for them. So I would just go check out all of his threads. He's got a lot of highlights for like all of basically the 6 or 7 potential guys that the Spurs could get this year, whether we're in the top 3 or we slide down to 6 or 7. It's the Thompson twins, it's Cam Whitmore, it's Jarris Walker.
I like that guy.
And yeah, those were me too. Those were the main 4 that he did today. But just go check that out. And we'll definitely have to. I mean, maybe I'll reach out to him and maybe have him on or something, because that would be super fun just to do a draft preview. But as the season continues to wind down, I want to remind you guys we'll be putting all that draft content out after the season just to fill that gap before the draft lottery on May 16th. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us and supporting us through all of it, because I know this season is a little bit of a tough one. But if you enjoyed all the content, don't forget to like and subscribe. And there will be a reward at the end of the season with the draft lottery. Hopefully it'll work out, though.
Yeah.
Follow us on Twitter if you enjoy the show, at SSPN on YT, at Jude McLaren, at Ethan _Quintero to stay updated. We appreciate y'all. We'll catch y'all